Baker Mayfield has defied all odds throughout his football career. He walked on at 2 different NCAA D1 programs, became the starter, and eventually won a Heisman before being selected with the #1 overall pick in the 2018 draft. His size has always been a topic of discussion and an area of concern, but his ambition and drive has helped him overcome these roadblocks each step of the way. Although this internal fire has given him the ability to prevail, it's also been the direct source of his demise. His overblown self-confidence has given him the belief that he's more athletic than he really is, giving him the sense that he can outrun NFL edge rushers and university police officers. His belief in his arm talent has caused him to overlook layup plays, leading to low percentage throws that turn into costly interceptions. I'm a die-hard Cleveland Browns fan, so I've gone through a love-hate relationship with Baker, but I'll always remember the hubris that burnt the people around him.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Acting like I just ran away from everybody.
That's kind of how my whole life's gone.
I always believed that he had the talent to be great, and I sincerely admired his passion. But since his rookie season in Cleveland, I always said that he's his own worst enemy. Whether it's decision-making or dealing with the press after a loss.
Was I happy with the drive? No, we didn't score points. Dumbest question you could ask. Jesus, bro.
He simply never has the grace that other great quarterbacks possess. From a technical standpoint, Baker's biggest issue is his inability to stay calm in the pocket. He always has happy feet, he's falling backwards, and shifting in the pocket when he should simply step up into the window that his line created for him. This might be a stretch, but I think his uncomfortability in the pocket comes from a lack of trust in his teammates, due to his supreme belief in himself as a savior.
If anybody's going to turn that franchise around, it'd be me.
He just makes things harder on himself in everything he does. He hasn't been able to move on from those who doubted him, and he can never silence the talking heads because he actively seeks out their criticism. How can you still have a chip on your shoulder after winning a Heisman and being the #1 overall pick? It makes sense with someone like Tom Brady, who went 199 overall, but even still, you never got the sense throughout his career that he was legitimately bothered by those who doubted him when he was coming out of Michigan. Sure, he was ready to prove them all wrong, but he never walked around acting as if he was wronged. Baker attracts negative press because of his attitude towards the very people who write the narrative about him. And this isn't something that franchise quarterbacks do. An NFL head coach and front office gets so tired of feeling like they don't have an adult in the room. It's the same reason why the Cardinals are considering moving on from Kyler Murray if they get the chance to draft Caleb Williams next year. And Kyler is even more talented than Baker Mayfield, without a doubt, but he has the same cold and childish attitude when dealing with the press, teammates, and coaches. In a word, it's exhausting. And this attitude is built on too much pride in oneself that is sincerely hurt whenever their abilities or actions are moderately questioned. Baker was a first-round pick, and his contemporaries who were drafted with him in the first round, aside from Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, are now making $40 million a year. And Baker, he's on a 1-year prove-it deal for $4 million in Tampa. I don't blame him for what happened in Carolina. That was a mess the whole way through. But now, this is it for him to show that he's capable of leading a franchise and eventually making big money. Baker is at his best when he doesn't play hero ball. People forget that in his rookie year, he broke the rookie quarterback passing record with 27 touchdowns. This was in a system where he was just dropping back and taking his first or second read and letting it rip. In 2020, with Kevin Stefanski, Baker had the support of the run game and a solid play-action system. He wasn't having to overthink things. He could play team ball as more of a system quarterback and hit the layups. This got the Browns to the playoffs, but there's no way he was satisfied in being viewed as a system quarterback. His ego wouldn't be able to live with that, and he wouldn't accept a contract for $30 million a year when Lamar and Josh Allen were on pace for bigger paydays. In 2021, his pride, his ego, and his unrealistic belief in himself would come back to bite him and put the final nail in his coffin in Cleveland. In week 2 against Houston, he throws this interception that was actually Anthony Schwartz's fault, but then he tries to turn into Brian Dawkins, rather than getting out of the way or just being an obstacle like any franchise quarterback would do, especially an undersized one. Baker separated his shoulder here, and rather than getting surgery, sitting out for a few weeks, and coming back at his full ability, his pride had once again got in the way. He thought he could play through the pain, and instead played with a brace and looked like a shell of himself, becoming wildly inaccurate, decreasing his value, re-injuring the shoulder, and ultimately ending any plans of future extensions. And maybe Baker's just the kind of guy who can't succeed with praise. Maybe he needs to be the perpetual underdog and has to have the odds stacked against him to prove people wrong. Maybe that could explain his lights-out performance in LA after 2 days of being in the facility, and arguably his finest moment as a professional.
Jefferson, is that possible? Touchdown!
It's frustrating as a fan because that is what Baker is capable of. He just has to grow up and learn to control the narrative by not lashing out against those people. I really hope Baker can turn the corner, and I think he can succeed in Tampa with the weapons that they have. The NFC South is a weak division, and the team has the experience to get to the playoffs. If they could do this and Baker could string it all together, he's in line for an extension and another chance as a franchise quarterback. I'll always have love in my heart for Baker for what he did in 2020, and I wish he never got injured in 2021. Baker's belief in himself cannot exceed his performance on the field. He has to be a professional. He's earned the right to be there, so he has to stop acting like an underdog. Just like Tony Montana, Florida is where things could all end for him. If he can't grow up this year and he can't progress on his weaknesses, his fate might be sealed. Thank you guys, and we will talk soon.